Hello, I am Liz Duart, a co-leader of the communications team with the new organization of the United Democratic Women. Welcome to our first online event. We are honoring the memory of Dr. King today by continuing our fight for voter rights bills in the Senate and stopping voter suppression. We have 6 dynamic women from around the country speaking about their experiences with voter suppression, voter rights, and what is happening in their states and territory. If you are commenting on Facebook Live, we will be answering the questions after the event has ended. I would like to introduce our first speaker. We have the president of the United Democratic Women, Carol Comito from Arizona.
Thank you, Liz. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Voting is a right that we fought for, and our vote is our voice. As MLK said, the time is always right to do what is right, and one has a moral responsibility to obey unjust laws. In Arizona, the big lie took us to a 4th review of our ballots by the Republican legislature. The results showed no discrepancies, and if anything, President Biden actually had more votes. By continuing to say the election was rigged, it gives people a reason to question the legitimacy of our elections. As we move into the 2022 elections, we need to strengthen the belief in our democracy. Passing the John Lewis and Freedom to Vote Acts must happen to give us the right to a fair election. We need to stand up and stand together to make our voice heard now, to keep our democracy alive. As John Lewis said, make good trouble. We hope you are with us in this fight. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Carol. And for our next speaker, we have Susan Shelton from Texas, where from what I hear, we could have an entire session just about
Sadly,
Texas. So,
yes.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Welcome from Texas. I joke about Texas being a death by 1,000 cuts when it comes to voting rights. The moment that the Supreme Court gutted Section 5, we had a voter ID bill pass. And if you've ever tried to get a free ID, you know that the documentation involved in getting a free ID is not free. So that became a de facto poll tax for us. And now this latest legislative session introduced a bevy of new laws that make it harder to vote. And of course, their slogan is make it easier to vote and harder to cheat, but it couldn't be further from the truth. When you're registering to vote, you need to input either the last 4 digits of your social security number or your driver's license number. And that could have happened 30 years ago if you've always lived in the same house. And if you request a ballot by mail, which is also incredibly hard to do, but if you request to vote by mail, you have to enter the number you use to register to vote. And if you have the incorrect number, your application can get rejected. And so far, many counties across the state have been reporting up to 50% of their applications are being rejected. State parties and elected officials can no longer offer to send someone a mail ballot application. It has to be requested by the voter. You are required, if you're giving people rides to the polls, if you have over 7 people, and this directly targets our Souls to the Polls folks, if you have more than 7 people that you're transporting, the driver has to sign in and give all of their information. And each time, if there are any irregularities in these forms, they become felony level, like perjury issues. So it's not just a misdemeanor or something small. You're taking serious risks. And what that does is discourages people from helping. And every little roadblock becomes a reason for someone to not vote. Now, one of the other things we've had is that polling locations have closed. places have to be an early vote location and a polling day location all at the same time. So they can't, if any of the locations want to be open during early vote but closed on election day, they can't do that. The hours have been restricted dramatically. After Harris County implemented 24-hour voting, they realized that that was wildly successful, and well, got to put a stop to that. And basically every little thing, like when I voted this year in 2021 or 2020, this election cycle, it took me 4 hours to get through a poll, and I'm in a liberal Democratic town. So I know that if I didn't have a job that would allow me to stand in line for 4 hours, I would never have been able to vote. So it's passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and For the People Act make it possible for federal regulations to come in and sort of disallow the kind of shenanigans that Texas is up to. And I hate to say it, but wherever Texas goes, other states start following. So if it works here, expect to see that kind of suppression in your place. So help us pass the Voting Rights Act and the For the People Act, and that'll help put it to an end. I'm going to stop before my voice goes.
Thank you very, very much, Susan. I'm glad you live in Texas and I don't. Right? So, yeah, this motivates us to fight the fights. And our next speaker is Alice Love, who is the corresponding secretary of United Democratic Women. I'm not sure if I mentioned that Susan Shelton is the secretary of the United Democratic Women. Sorry about that. And Alice Love is now from Maryland. And we're going to, I think there's going to be 2 pictures for you on here, but I think you're unmuted right now. And I turn this over to Alice. Thank you. Nope, you're not. Okay, hold on. We can see you on one, Alice, and then you're going to need to unmute whichever one you're talking into. Or there you are, you're unmuted, so go right ahead.
Okay, well, good afternoon. This is really a good privilege to be able to speak on voter suppression, especially on Martin Luther King Jr. birthday. It is sad to say that we are still trying to put forth the laws to give us the right to vote for who we want to represent us. Voter suppression has been a long and ugly history in the past 20 years. But this year of 2021 has become a year that more states have put in voter restriction laws. And what are they? They are the laws that are trying to prevent us to vote the way we want to vote and put in representations of who we want to support us, to make laws for our housing, our health, our education, climate control, etc. We have tools that we can put in place that will allow us to put this voting suppression to bed. And those tools are the bills that are set before Congress now that have been sent over by the House of Representatives to the Senate. They have introduced bills that will give us Voting Rights Act, which would establish federal standards for voting access, allowing same-day voting registration, establishing Election Day as a legal public holiday, requiring laws and states to allow a minimum number of days for early voting. And we also have the John Lewis Voting Right Advancement Act, which would make illegal voting rights illegal and discriminate on the basis of our race, language, and empower voters to challenge discriminatory laws. It's a shame that we still have to do this, but we can do this. We are aimed to put the fight to the people, to our elected officials, and we will do this. Let's make this one of the strong, powerful voice that is before us now. We have the tools. I want you to read up on the voters suppression that is being done, because we can vote. We have the right to vote. We know we are going to vote, but it's what will happen with our votes when it gets to be counted. And that is what some of these states are putting in place to omit our voting rights, to make it hard, to make them not count, but we will not give up. We will join in this fight together, and we will make the people's choice matters. I want you to go to your states, look into your states, get involved in what is happening in your states, see what they have done to suppress our votes, and see what you can do. We have tools, join organizations. We are an organization that's a political organization and for women, and we will do what we have to do to make sure our votes count. So keep tuned, know what is happening. Don't think this is for granted. We will have to fight, and we will fight. And on January the 17th, 2023, on Martin Luther King Jr. birthday, we can present him with a gift from all of us, that his fight was not in vain and that we can vote. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm muted. Thank you. Thank you very much, Alice. Important information to have for sure. Next, I would like to introduce Kathy Harrington, who is our outreach coordinator for United Democratic Women, and she is from Florida, and also I'll put a side in here from Connecticut as well. So, Kathy?
Yes, good afternoon from Florida. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. I'm going to start with talking about Governor Ron DeSantis, whom you all have heard of. What is his latest attempt at voter suppression? Last Tuesday, he gave the State of the State speech that started the legislative session for Florida. In that speech, he said that he wants to establish a voter integrity unit, a new law enforcement agency aimed at voter fraud and tightening voter laws. How much money does he have in the budget for that? $6 million. Why would anyone want to spend $6 million on another police force? This is why. Despite boasts of a 2020 flawless election, especially vote by mail, in May 2021, Governor DeSantis signed a 28-page bill that put restrictions on vote by mail and other forms of voting. What was in that? One of the most important things for a lot of people is the fact that their signature changes over time, especially as people age and they've had different medical conditions. If your signature does not match the signature they have on file on the outside of your mail-in ballot, they disqualify it. And one of the things with all these restrictions that are put in place, not many people know about them. Another thing is that early voter boxes must have someone at the box at all times. If the Secretary of State's office in your town does not provide that, the supervisor of election, $25,000 fine per day for that. And if you bring ballots in, mail-in ballots, you can only have 2 besides yours that are not immediate family members. This puts restrictions on nursing homes and for people who are homebound and can't get out to vote. Another thing that is really a tool to stop Democrats is that in Florida, your local elections are all what is called bipartisan. So therefore, you do not put your party affiliation down when you speak or on any of your websites. As a tool to get elected in a lot of Republican areas, Democrats switched to unaffiliated voter. In this Voting Act of 2021, if you switch to unaffiliate from a party, you cannot run for office unless it's been 365 days prior to the election. So we all know it's hard to get people to run. And a lot of people don't plan a whole year ahead that they're going to be someone that's going to run for local election. The fact of the matter is, in 2018, Florida voters voted by 65% to change the way felons receive their voting rights back. Florida has been only one of 4 states that say that you must go before a board to be reinstated once you are no longer incarcerated. What has happened since then? The governor has tried loophole after loophole, saying that the legislature has to put restraints on these and definitions on these to stop the way that voters can continue to vote if they're felons. And we know that election by governor was lost by less than 10%. If you add felons that are eligible to vote back into the system, that's over 10% of the voters in Florida. So it's very important that we know that we have a governor that isn't going to do this. We need the federal government to help us. We need these bills that are now in the Senate to stop voter suppression. We need them passed now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy. I'm also glad I don't live in Florida, and Connecticut actually does have some rather restrictive laws, but we're working real hard to get them less restrictive. And for our person from the Laguna Pueblo Nation, unfortunately, is not able to make it right now. But when I think she may hopefully be able to be a speaker for another session about this important information, and especially is voter suppression and voting rights is very difficult. For voting rights are very difficult in the Native American nations, and voter suppression is rampant throughout it. So this may be just another topic for us to be able to discuss this. But I would like to bring up our Vice President of the United Democratic Women, Winifred Carson Smith, who will be speaking this subject she has written a lot about and spoken a lot about, and it is a pleasure to be able to have Wendy speak for us near the end of this session. Wendy, thank you. You need to be unmuted. Great.
Can you? Okay.
Yes, okay. But you're going to have to, I'm sorry, you're going to have to shut off either
I got
the phone.
it unmuted.
Got
now.
it.
Can
Perfect.
you hear me?
Perfect. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so very much. One of my favorite Martin Luther King quotes comes from Letters from a Birmingham Jail and reads as follows. Okay, let me get it up here. I must make 2 honest confessions to you. I must confess that over the past few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is not the White Citizens Council or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with you on the methods of direct action, who paternalistically believes he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, and who lives by a mythical concept of time, and who constantly advises the Negro to wait for a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. One of my favorite quotes, it is so relevant and applicable to our politics today, almost 70 years after it was written. I've read and reread this quote as it reflects the conduct and mindset of Senators Sinema and Manchin, generally, and more specifically, in relation to their recent discussions about their opposition to the filibuster. The filibuster, Sinema claims, is a tool that requires new federal policy to be broadly supported by senators representing a broad cross-section of Americans, a guardrail, inevitably viewed as an obstacle by whoever holds the Senate majority, but which in reality ensures that millions of Americans represented by the minority party have a voice in the process. But what about the voters who gave Biden a majority to vote, to work with, knowing how Democrats were stymied, frustrated at every turn by the last Republican administration? Traditions were constantly broken and ignored, as reflected by the 3 Republican nominees who were selected for the US Supreme Court. It seems that Manchin and Sinema believe that the electoral minority is more important than the new multicultural majority, which elected Democratic president and a majority to the Senate. How can 2 people in the name of tradition, which has been used historically to stall civil rights legislation, hold the president's agenda hostage and the party accept this? I am pondering what needs to be done to unseat Senators Manchin and Sinema. I am thinking about how United Democratic Women can assist other Democratic candidates in Arizona, West Virginia, and outside of those states in flipping those non-democratic states blue. We need more than people of good intention. Our party and our democracy are at stake. As Ella Baker, an unheralded SNCC organizer, said, it's time to challenge the rules. Let's do so by fighting to regain a democracy which represents us. Elections to the US Senate will be held on November 8th, 2022, and 34 of the 100 seats are up for regular election. 14 seats are currently held by Democrats and 20 are held by Republicans and who are up for election in 2022. Republicans are defending 2 Senate seats in states in which our president won the 2020 presidential election, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. Democrats are not defending in any Senate seats in states Trump won in 2020 in 2020, excuse me. We need to identify and elect 5 new Democratic senators. We need to get past this small majority and make ourselves felt, and begin now with our preparations for the 2020 election cycle. We must affirmatively work in the 2020-25 elections to unseat Manchin and Sinema. Our love for democracy should drive our preparation for the political battles. I reflect on Martin Luther King, knowing he will prepare me for this reality. Join me in prayer and reflection about this fight. Let us take the wisdom that Martin shared with us over 50 years ago, knowing that the fight continues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wendy. You've given us definitely a map of what we need to do. And it is all about elections. You're absolutely right on that. For us to save, President Carol Comito did want to say very quickly about an event coming up as well with the ERA. So go right ahead.
Thank you, Liz. The ERA is going to have a rally for equality on January 27th, and then they're going to march to the DOJ's office with the petitions that we've been signing. If you want to sign the petition, we'll be sending information out. You can check our website, and you can also check the ERA Coalition's website. And I just wanted to mention, if we have the time, just so everyone knows, we are a super PAC, and our goals are to fundraise for women that are running for Congress and also to fight for women's issues. So please join us, whether you like us on Facebook, join us as a member, go on Twitter. We would love to have you involved with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carol. And I want to thank everyone who is either joining us for Facebook Live. I would like to thank all of our speakers. This has been excellent information to share. And for anyone who is viewing this after the Facebook Live, we will be posted. It will be posted on Facebook. It will also be on our website as well. And so share it around for sure, because we have to continue our fight against voter suppression, and we are stronger together. So I look forward to seeing you again online, and I will be putting in comments in Facebook Live as far as resource information. And please go to our website, UnitedDemocraticWomen.com. Thank you, and have a great day.